Good evening and welcome to the June 17th, 2013 Goffstown Board of Selectmen meeting. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on the agenda tonight we have a couple of oaths of office at 6:20 and a public hearing at 7 p.m. But the first order of business is the acceptance and correction of two sets of minutes. The first from June 3rd, 2013. Have a motion on the minutes?
Motion to accept with corrections?
A motion with corrections, and a second?
I'll second. Is that both at the same time, Nick, or one?
Just June 3rd.
Yeah, just
Yep.
take one at a time. We have a motion and a second. Yes, Nick. what do you
Page
have?
11? First sentence of the third paragraph, where it says, Selectman Campusano asked if the town didn't want a fight, then what would happen? It should be light. We were talking about a traffic light at the crossing.
Oh,
Could go either way.
changes the meaning a bit.
A little bit. And on page
Emotional
13,
content in there.
Page what, 16?
13, I'm sorry.
13?
Yes.
Where it says Carl, is full paragraph, Carl asked if engagement letter was in a form that the attorney approved, could he move forward on it? And then it just has our motion. That section should reflect that the board said yes.
Okay.
And that's all I have on those.
So something like board agreed. Just
Any other-
something like that.
Any other corrections or omissions from members of the board? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I will abstain since I was absent from that meeting, so the motion passes 4-0-1. Next is the minutes from the June 10th, 2013 meeting. Any motion on those minutes?
Move to accept.
Thank you.
Second with corrections.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second with corrections. Yes.
Page 6.
Page 6, yes.
One, two, three, fourth paragraph down. Next to the last sentence where it says, Selectman Campusano, let's do it all, and let CIP know we'll be discussing it. In that conversation, I said, let's put everything together in one placeholder amount. And then we can pare it down as we
So we're going to
move
combine
through.
all, is that, or how did you want to state it?
Let's submit all as one CIP.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, any others?
Page 8.
Yes.
Third sentence up from the bottom of the page,
Yep.
where it said, Selectman Devanza said, if we would need to be as large, I believe it was if it would not need to be as large, and the whole design would change. We were talking about Station 18.
It doesn't say that. It says Selectman Devanza said if we started with station.
Oh, I'm sorry, line up above. He
Above.
said, the site involving the community garden is the best, this was me, is the best site for the administrative offices, so Station 18 would need to be as large, should be would not need to be as large.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then on page 10, under the Compass shopper update,
Mhm.
second to the last sentence in there where it says, Selectman Devanza said last year when you entered into this, you said 20% would be effective. Is that the redirection rate? I was the one who asked that
Oh.
question.
What page was that?
Page 10.
10.
Right,
And that's all I have.
thank you. Any other board members? No, seeing none, take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. All right, let's see. We do have one announcement. This is relative to the control of aquatic plants on Namaski Lake. It's a letter that went out to the abutters. It's dated June 10th, 2013. Namaski Lake abutter, Aquatic Control Technology, 11 John Road, Sutton, Mass., has been contracted by the Namaski Lake Association to chemically treat portions of Namaski Lake in Goffstown for control of non-native milfoil. Portions will be treated with the US EPA state-registered herbicide Renovate Max G, an herbicide, EPA registration number 67690-50, on or about Tuesday, June 25th, 2013, in accordance with special permit SP-100 that was issued by the New Hampshire Division of Pesticide Control. The following temporary water use restrictions will be imposed on the day of treatment. No swimming for 24 hours following treatment within 200 feet of the treated areas. Do not use this water for drinking, irrigation, or for mixing sprays for agricultural or ornamental plants until further notice. Some irrigation restrictions may be relaxed as per the pesticide label at the discretion of the applicator. These restrictions apply to all intakes within 1,200 feet of the treatment area and to all wells within 50 feet of the treatment area. You can contact Mr. Mark Bellaud, B-E-L-L-A-U-D, of Aquatic Control Technology in Sutton, Mass. His number is 508-865-1000, or by email, info@aquaticcontroltech.com. For information on the release dates of these restrictions, or for additional information on the irrigation restrictions. The shoreline of the lake will be posted with signs warning of the temporary water use restrictions that will be imposed immediately prior to treatment. If you have any questions concerning this treatment, contact Aquatic Control Technologies at the above address. You can find, is this on our website?
It is.
Yes.
You can find on our website a map of Namaski Lake and where the treatment areas are located. So we want all people to be aware of that if they use Namaski Lake. Are there any other announcements that folks may have? Anyone? No others? Okay, thank you. Do you have any, Sue? None?
No.
Okay, thank you. A little bit early for public comment. Can we jump down and take care of a few of the town administrators report things, Sue? Just to
Sure.
bring us
Your
to September?
weekly meeting schedule's in your packets. Tuesday is the Plan Pinarville Committee in this room. Wednesday at 6:30 is the Library Trustees. Wednesday at 7 is Parks and Rec Commission. And Thursday at 7 is the CIP here in this room.
And are those all covered, folks?
Hmm.
Got those all
I've got
covered?
library, I've got the CIP, yeah. I believe I'll be at library, I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Touching
Everything else,
up.
rest of them all covered adequately? Okay, thank you.
And your consensus folder tonight includes manifest. The general fund AP warrant is $650,926.72. And your payroll and withholding for the general fund is $135,411.69. And your cable revolving fund payroll withholding is $1,188.77. There are some other items that arrived after the packets are put together. We have some employee status reports, an EMTI resignation, a seasonal laborer, a new hire. Seasonal laborer did not report for work, so I guess that's a discharge. Police sergeant appointment papers, police special officer appointment papers, proclamation, retirement, and a right to inter Elaine R. Gilman, her heirs and assigns at West Lawn Cemetery, section 1987, lot number 3. Motion's needed in the consensus folder.
Move to accept.
Motion, second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 500. Thank you, Sue.
And correspondence, you have a letter from a Mr. James Finn regarding the CMAC public informational meeting, and that was also directed to, let's see, who else was that sent to? Carl and Chief Sullivan. So I assume Carl will take it to the committee meeting.
Okay. Yes, no action needed tonight. Okay, thank you.
The assessor recommends a land use change tax lien release for map 9, lots 76 and 104.
So moved.
Get a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the assessor's recommendations? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 500.
And the town clerk was unable to be here tonight, but she regrets having another meeting or commitment, so she couldn't be here. But per state law, she must report to the Board of Selectmen the unregistered dog list, which is a confidential list and is in a confidential folder in your signature file. This year, there are 519 unregistered dogs belonging to 394 households as of June 13th. The next step in the statutory process is for the Selectmen to authorize the police chief and the town clerk to issue a $25 civil forfeiture letter per dog with a $5 administrative fee per household to be delivered first-class mail to keepers of all unregistered dogs. Motion is needed.
Okay. We need a motion
That's pretty much the same as we had last year, right?
Yes, this is the annually.
to authorize the police chief
The
and town
the
clerk.
numbers are up, but so aren't the number of dogs overall in town, and you have the statistics that she.
Move to accept, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion to accept. And a
I'll second it.
And a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. It is 6:10. I only see one person in the audience. Are you here to make public comments, sir? Seeing nobody else, we'll pass on the public comment for 6:10. We will have a second opportunity at 7:30. If anyone is out there on GTV 16 who would like to come down and address the board, 7:30 would be your opportunity. Thank you. Okay. What else? Where are we now, Sue? We're at,
Move on to selectmen discussion
yeah,
if
I
you
guess we
want.
can, yeah. Yes, the new business.
Yes, this, Selectman Devanza brought this forward to
Mhm.
discuss scheduling an appointment with DRED, that's the Department of Resource and Economic Development with the state regarding their programs and support for I-293, that's at exit 6 and 7 option to benefit Goffstown. And the last time they were here, they spoke with EDC, what was it, back in 2011?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I had spoken with Chris Gray, who's the interim director of DED, and had a discussion with him, and he volunteered to have, to come down, for them to come down and have a discussion with us, pretty much the programs that they have. He discussed a few of the programs to me, and I also discussed a concern about the industrial park that we have on the back road. And he said that he'd have Gary contact me, and, I said I would bring it up to the board, see about having a discussion, come down. And it is correct that he met with Economic Development back in 2011, and I think Derek forwarded us a set of those minutes, and I think if you look at those minutes, there are a lot of members that have changed in there. We also have different members on the board here that aren't familiar with it. And also, if you look at the time, 2 years ago, economy was under a different type of a stress than it is right now. So with those issues in mind, I thought that it would be good, especially since those are the things we're talking about, our goals. And we had the meeting that we had last week, the discussion that we had last week. I thought that this was a very, very good step that we've had to take forward.
I think it's a good idea as well. How do others feel? I think it's worthwhile to have them down here, have a conversation. Sue, do you know what meeting we might be able to fit them into an agenda?
Your next meeting, you have public hearing, which, let's see, get to the calendar here. Now, July 8th, you have a public hearing on the special detail rates. You probably want to avoid that. You probably want to do it around 7. That'd probably be best for them, I would
Yeah, I would
assume.
think so.
So after.
Also EDC, we'd also invite.
Yeah, we need to
Coordinate with
coordinate
EDC.
with them.
Do you want to do this at a selectmen's meeting on a Monday night?
Yes, I prefer to do it.
Okay. Then I can check with EDC, but the July 15th, 22nd, or 29th, any of those 3 meetings would be good, because you're taking off the first week of July.
ADC is gonna meet on the 2nd.
They're meeting on the 2nd, right?
Of
But the-
July?
Yeah, but the
Yeah, we're
board is
supposed to be
not
Monday,
meeting that week. Unless you want to try, unless the board wants to do it in an EDC meeting.
I'll be out of town.
On which, the second?
Second.
Yeah, we had decided we weren't meeting that week, so I think people may have
I
made
think my
vacation.
preference would be to have it here at a Board of Selectmen's meeting, any one of those 3 dates in July, the 15th, 22nd, or 29th. Let's coordinate with EDC, find out what works best
And
for them.
are all the board members here available on those 3 days? Okay. So let me see what's best for EDC then.
That'd be great, thank you.
And Dred, obviously. And that contact Phil in the email, is that who I contact to see his availability?
Sure.
Okay.
Coincidentally, I used to work with Chris Way at DES.
There you go.
Yeah.
The one that signed this was Gary Shabbat. Is he
Right.
my contact?
Right,
Okay.
right, it's through Gary.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds great, so let us know what you find out.
Okay.
That brings us to old business. The first item being the Lamson Ave snow plowing agreement. We'd asked to put it off so that myself and others could go down and take a look at it. I did have an opportunity to go down and take a look at it. Phil had suggested possibility of maybe creating a path that takes off of the end of the turnaround at the end of Lamson Ave, where the town has a right-of-way, over to the property line with the Barnard Park property. Certainly looks like that would be an appropriate place, and I think that's workable. The ravine's fairly deep through there, so I would think we could bridge that from top of bank to top of bank, and by doing that, we wouldn't need a permit from DES. If we were to install culverts and do a culverted crossing, we would need to get a permit from DES. Not that that should shy us away from one option or the other. Personally, I think a bridge is a nicer amenity. We could put railings on it, maybe put in some solar photovoltaic lights, low downcast on the railing for nighttime, for dark hours.
Footpath.
Yeah.
That covers the footpath.
Right, exactly,
Right.
downcast lighting,
Right.
so it doesn't offend the neighbors, but,
How about the walk along the fence line? Once you cross that bridge, that walk along the fence line is fairly narrow and
well, either that or we could
Also-
break the fence line and put in a gate. So that you
Yeah.
enter at that
I
back
had talked
stretch.
to Rick about that
that would be,
possibility.
Yeah, because
It's
that
rather-
is treacherous walking along that fence
Yeah.
line.
Right.
That is not good.
He thought that would be doable to put it. And parts of the fence need some repair anyway, so
Yes,
he's
they
It'd
putting
be
in.
it'd be an open gate anyway, you wouldn't have to put full gate, right, just put an open
It
gate.
would probably be
Yeah.
like their other entrance,
Just
where they
open,
have a
sure.
bollard, so you don't want ATVs or things in there.
Yeah,
Right, right, exactly.
Yeah, I think it could be actually a nice amenity to the property over there, done properly.
and so whose property does that go over?
That would be the last house on the left.
But we have a right-of-way.
No,
But it's still someone's private
Well,
property.
I understand, but
that would be the Corvos, so we would have to talk to the Corvos. They're the ones with the unique parcel. We have like a big pie shape in the
Yeah.
back. And we had tried to resolve that once before, but the mortgage company was in the way of settling on that. Because we were going to give them the piece in their backyard that's really Barnard. It's a pie-shaped piece that
Right.
belongs to Barnard. And they were gonna give us a turnaround and it never got the approval of their mortgage company.
well, we should reach out to the Corvos and perhaps meet them out there.
Maybe we can clean all of this up at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And meet them out there and
Yep.
look at it and bounce some ideas around, see if they're receptive to it.
Right,
I'd like to be at that meeting
okay.
with the Corvos.
Well, you're a chairman.
Just let me- yeah,
Okay.
I'll attend as well. I mean, we both win, but we both win at different times, unfortunately. I missed his calling. I tried to catch up to him, but he had already left, and where he, Collis is talking about, I think it would work out very well. It'd be, pretty nice addition to the area.
So could you contact the Corvos and
Sure.
pick a couple of dates that would work for them and bring those back so we can coordinate?
Will do. You wanna do this in the evening?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we'll accommodate their schedule whenever they get home from work or
Okay.
finished with dinner or whatever works. The daylight lasts well into the evening.
It
so-
may work to meet there.
Yes,
Mm.
oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about, on site.
On-site, yep.
That's what I understood it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Call us.
Yes.
Hey, then a new business we got by here. I stopped in to see Carl today, to see the crushing operations going on in the pit.
Mhm.
And I expressed some concerns about the size of the materials. And he says, he assures me they're gonna go back and crush it again, but we'll have to kinda watch that a little bit. The material they made now is really of no value at all.
Doesn't meet spec.
No, not even close. It's a pile of fill is what it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we're gonna pay, if that's what we're gonna end up paying for, we need to either readdress that and make sure these guys are on the ball.
Yeah, and especially in light of the fact that we gave him special consideration to come in and address the board. And he convinced
And there
us.
was only $1,000 difference between the two prices, and, you know,
Yeah, I guess his equipment broke, and he will be
Well-
coming back and doing over what he's already done.
and there was some concern about, yeah, you said you were looking to see if they had a certificate of insurance on file.
Yeah, they should, but I will definitely
Yeah.
look, certificate of insurance.
So Carl's gonna take that from here? And-
I guess so.
Yes, he's working with the vendor.
I told him I was gonna stop and see the vendor tomorrow. I want to see his belt. See if his conveyor belt had his scale on like it was supposed to be.
So there's no action required by the board
No.
tonight? Carl's
Do you
gonna
plan
follow
on
up.
going tomorrow?
I don't know when I'll be there. I was gonna try and stop down, see the guy if he's crushing, see what's going on. I'll call you if I can
Yeah.
get free.
It is 6:20. Time for our oaths of office, so.
You got the chief?
Do the chief with his 650. If they're not ready, I don't know.
He's waiting for some more people to arrive, but he can
Okay.
do
Yeah,
his
650.
650.
Okay, great, let's
Okay.
do that.
Sure.
He's just getting his paperwork.
Hey, chief.
How are you? Sorry about that.
Good, how are you?
That's all right.
No, that's my
Sorry, we're a
fault. I
little-
originally had it planned for 6:30, then I changed it.
Yeah.
Then I said,
Not
oh,
a
we'll bump
problem.
it up.
Not a problem. Good evening, chief. You have some contract
Yes, I do.
rules for tonight.
I misspoke last week, and I apologize for that. The New Boston Fire and Ware Fire were the same as 2013 for this year. I'm sorry, for 12, same as for this year, and then it's a 2% increase after that. So that's my confusion and my fault. It had been a while since I had seen them, so again, I apologize. The Francistown contract is the same. We've been doing the same and more likely, I know, less than what we have been doing in the past. So I didn't see there was any justification to raise that with the lower number of cases we're handling for them, so.
Okay.
I think the Francistown one did go up, chief.
Did it?
Let me see.
No, I don't think so.
It was 6,500
2012.
in 2012, and last week's packet was
65.
5C. Is it still
6,500.
65?
To start, and then there's a 2% increase.
Oh, yes, that's right,
Should they
6630 in
accept it?
2014. Got it.
Got it.
Thank you.
And that was more to give them a heads up for budgetary planning.
So those are in their signature folder, Catherine? Oh, you didn't bring them last week? Okay. At their,
Yeah, we did sign
Yeah,
it.
they are.
did you sign them last
Yeah,
week?
yeah, yeah.
Or they are in
No,
there?
they're in this week.
Oh, they're in this week, okay.
Oh, I thought you were talking about those,
No, the new
I'm
ones that were in
mixed
there last week, okay.
the ones that were held over are
Yes.
there.
Oh, excellent, that's exactly what we need, good. So just a motion
So
on
we
that
need some
then.
action to. Okay. I'm looking for a motion to accept the contracts, or approve the contracts, I should say.
I'll make a motion to accept the police chief's recommendation and approve the 3 contracts.
Both of them?
The 3 contracts.
3 contracts. okay.
Second that.
There you go.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I just have a quick question. Chief, in the new leases, you've added 2E, which is the responsibility for an equitable portion of any CAD upgrades. Does that cover the CAD upgrade that you're doing now?
No, it does not. It would cover any portion that they would be responsible for. What we don't know is what they're doing for fire dispatch, and our current IMC upgrade is working to incorporate fire with a grant, hopefully in the pipeline. So there's some concern as far as where that is. And when we started this process, it was mentioned that there was going to be.
So should something come?
Should something come up that's something we have not anticipated, it would cover that.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 500. Thank you, Chief.
Let me check if they're all here.
If you get a meeting set up with the Corvos, give me a call, let me know.
which one?
On Corvos, when you next week.
Oh, yes.
Just give me a call on the phone.
Okay. If we have three, I'll have to post it, though. If three of you attend, I have to post that as a
I'll just be there as a, I'll just stand in the wings.
Which,
with the Corvos.
I don't think you
Yeah, no,
want to do
yeah,
that.
we can't do 3.
I'll stay home.
Okay, thank you. We'll fill you in.
That magic number 2.
Who makes these crazy rules?
We could post it.
We
We
can
could
post
do
it
that.
as a meeting,
We
yeah.
could.
We do that for
I don't think it's
Conservation Commission
Yeah,
walks.
they do sidewalks, yep.
Planning board
Yeah, we do.
sidewalks.
Yeah, that's true.
But then the Corvos would have to agree to open up to the public.
Yeah, for access.
Don't do that.
Why don't we just have the chairman?
Well,
Chair and vice chair is fine.
Yeah.
well, because Mark has to, it's through Mark's department that we're dealing with, too.
Public Works is gonna put that in, the bridge?
Parks
They
and
would,
Rec.
well, they would probably, there was an Eagle Scout that was,
You
wanted
also
to
have
do
the
it.
design that we have to look at. You have anything that's gonna
They
deal with
probably
any kind
oversee
of permits with DES is gonna be through Public Works.
Yeah, I would think Public Works would oversee if there was still an Eagle Scout that was interested in doing this.
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah, I-
distance? Were you able to
Well,
estimate?
20, 25 feet, something like that.
He said 20, I said 25. I
Yeah.
mean, we're in that neighborhood.
Take a tape measure, make a real measurement, let me know, I'll see what I got for stringers.
We will.
If each of-
I'll throw a
if-
string to them on the other
Yeah.
side.
Each of you is off 2.5 feet, you'll be right on.
We're good.
All right, so Mark and I will
Okay,
attend the site walk with the
Cross me out.
Corvos.
gotcha.
As long as it's not the week of the 4th of July.
No, leaving that one open for you.
Okay, thank you. I will be out of
What about
town.
the ADA parking, was that all resolved? The ADA parking, did we ever resolve any of that? Is
I
that-
did not have a chance to get over to see the school.
Okay, so we'll reschedule that.
Yes, thank you.
Just a quick question,
Yeah.
clarification. Mark, you were there. Is that, you know where the drain, the
Center drain,
center drain, is it to the left of that?
right dead center, right, well,
So that whole area has to come up?
yes, that whole area has to come up, Nick, correct. Yeah. Probably a little bit more to the left. It'll be, the parking lot will incorporate where the set of doors are. The concrete comes out. It's just gonna take over from there and come out
Gotcha.
the desired space is needed, but Kyle was, he kind of favored that storm drain to get, because we're adding the parking, the water. His concern was the water, to try to alleviate the water, get rid of the water.
You know, why don't we take up some committee reports to take up
Sure.
some of the quiet time here? We've got a report on the exit 6 and 7 I-293 meeting. Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, we can both
Sure.
tag team it. We had a meeting last week. The meeting was held June 11th at the Manchester Community College, room 126. Meeting was well-attended, probably 25, 30 people, give or take, somewhere around there. We saw the overview of the different studies as to how they want to lay out exit 6, exit 7. Southern New Hampshire Service, Mr. Priest or Pierce?
Priest,
Pierce.
yes.
Priest.
Priest, yes. He was very, he spoke very in favor of the exit, pretty much coming,
Relocated exit 7.
the relocate exit 7 and bringing it pretty much right to where we've been fighting for the last several meetings. We had some residents from Manchester, you know, speak in favor of relocating that exit 7 to bring it to Goffstown, to the Goffstown Road area where we've been talking about. There was comments about if we do it now, do we do the exit 7 first before the exit 6? We're gonna have to recount our numbers, because if the exit 7 goes where we're thinking it's gonna go, it may take a lot of traffic away from the exit 6 area. It could take significant cars away if it ends up in the right place, and it may have an impact down on the exit 6 as well. When we were talking about the program, if you notice the exit 7 interchange, alternate 10A and 10B, those are the only ones that have all green. And the ones that have all green are the ones that basically come to where we would like it to come. And the chairman made that point, and he got a round of applause. I mean, he got, you know, everybody was in favor of it. It worked out very, very well. The next phase is dealing with the wetlands. They're gonna start in with the wetlands. The economic development part of that has been added to the scope or the study of it. We kind of drove the point home of the industrial park on the back road. It was mentioned that it may even be, possibly could be rezoned for something else, because we've had such a hard time getting the industrial park in there. So, I mean, there's a lot on the table being done right now. Did I leave anything out?
Well, I would just add, Goffstown was very, very well represented there.
Yeah.
There were 3 selectmen there.
Economic Development
Economic
Committee,
Development.
Charlie Tentis was there.
Yep. Derek Horn was there, Ryan Rose was there, Chris Nato was there.
Yep.
And I think it's safe to say that Goffstown pretty much dominated the conversation for
Yeah.
most of the
Yeah.
evening. And in fact, I think we even converted some folks before we were done. And we made it perfectly clear that we would strongly support a relocated exit 7 that would bring an access road back around to Goffstown Back Road, so we avoid the whole Manchester problem. In fact, I brought that up at the hearing, that, you know, we had this significant industrial development that was basically torpedoed when Manchester put up the no trucking signs. So we're very well represented. I think DOT got the message.
They did. There was also, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Phil.
Well, I was sitting behind you, a little further back to kind of get the flavor of the whole thing. And I was gonna say something, but what I noticed and transpired was that there were many residents from both Hooksett and Goffstown that supported the 7 relocation and the connection, both there. And I thought it was interesting that Manchester residents brought up the fact that we all pay taxes, and that we're all, you know, any benefit to the area benefits all of them. So at that point, I said, you know, sometimes you're better off leaving well enough alone, and I didn't bring anything more up. I just left it in closing, because I thought was, the closing comment was one of the Manchester residents who seemed to have reservations about the relocation because he uses exit 7. His comment was, at the end, well, I guess I'm gonna be using a relocated exit 7. So he seemed to be acceptive of it being relocated and had been convinced, so I just left it at that.
Yeah, I had contacted Senator D'Alessandro earlier that day to see if he'd be available to attend the meeting. He had a scheduling conflict and could not. However, he called DOT prior to the hearing and voiced his support of the exit 7 in support of Goffstown's economic interests. So I thought that was valuable as well.
Yes, he had called me on another issue and mentioned that too, that he had called.
Yes.
Question, the proposed access road, when it comes onto the Goffstown Back Road, is that prior to Straw Road?
Well, there are two different alternatives. One of them actually had two connections, one to East Dunbarton Road and one of them to Back Road, which I thought was the best, because, I mean, now you're splitting traffic and bringing
Yeah.
folks in from multiple directions.
Especially since that's a main connection to Concord.
Yes, right. Yes, it comes, I think it came in right at the Straw Road, didn't it?
Yeah, right,
If I
right
recall.
at, right at the Straw
that
Road.
split.
So we'll still have that
So
trucking
there's-
issue to deal with.
will they lift the trucking issue?
Well, no, wait a minute.
Because it's still in
No.
Manchester.
One of, they came in Goffstown.
They did?
I don't know if they both did, one of them did, because I remember.
Well, one of them
Took
was
away-
talking about using Straw Road.
Yeah,
Straw Road's got a lot of issues as far
yeah,
as
it sure does.
drainage.
Yeah, it sure does.
There was also comment, if we go further north, it probably wouldn't fit in as well. People would have to drive away to come back, and it would probably keep people away. They try to align it so that it would, shortest path between 2 points. If they went out further, they'd mentioned Hackett Hill very briefly, but if they go out too far, people have to travel out and come back, and it's just, it wouldn't work out as well as.
I know at least one of the alternatives came onto the back road in Goffstown, because we raised the issue of getting away from being held hostage, if you will, by the city of Manchester, as far as being able to
Let me see if I can find it.
stimulate.
What was the
Dunbarton Road,
reaction,
Goffstown Road.
what was the reaction to the 1967
Oh, it was great.
comprehensive
That was
plan?
great.
Yeah, well, it was,
Yeah.
it was classic.
Well, Hooksett made a lot of comments about how they had this master plan for the residential development up there, and I said, well, that's nice that you have a master plan. We've had one
And,
in place
but
since-
also how it fit in.
Yeah,
That's what they,
and you know what, I just remembered I forgot to bring the, I said a master plan. But it's in good hands.
Collis, if you look at, there's one right there, if you look at on the back page, it says Dunbarton Road connection, Goffstown Road connection, it shows both the connections, the bottom on the Goffstown Road, it shows it connecting to the Dunbarton Road and to the Goffstown Road, so. If you want that, Catherine, if you want that for the record, I have extras.
Sure.
If you wanna just pass that down after, Nick, please.
So that comes out right at Straw Road.
You got another one, Mark?
So we still
Sure.
have to lift that restriction.
Our representative, Mr. Heichel, was there as well. He spoke on behalf. If you have anything to add to what we said, I mean, you're more than welcome to step up and speak if you'd like.
Sure, thank you.
Yep.
I came for something else this evening, but I was there at the meeting, and Goffstown was very well represented, and it was overwhelming response, and I think they got the idea, they got the picture, that Goffstown supports this. There was a lot of questions raised, but all in all, I hope we can get this project underway. So we all support it. And the other thing that came up in a question after the meeting was, I had heard in the past that the proposal was made to actually come across the river at some time in the future, and to hook up with 114 at the Danish Park Lights, for instance, intersection. So all of that would be a great,
Yeah, that was part of that same 67.
start of that same 67, right? So
Showed it going across the river.
good time to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
That would jack up the price tag, but.
the only
Yeah.
reservation I have about that is if you start bringing that up, and then when people start looking at the numbers and they say, boy, those people from Goffstown wanna spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
So
well, that's- yeah.
let's make sure we get the back road connected first.
Start it first, right. It's a great start for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, we all set to go? All righty.
It's easy, just get done discussing it. Tony walks in. Yep.
Southwest, I think.
Someone's position.
Emily? Deb, is that everyone?
like to introduce Special Officer Emily Crosby. Emily's been a full-time employee with the Goffstown Police Department since December of 2010, serving as a communications specialist. Recently, she graduated from the New Hampshire Police Standards and Training Part-Time Academy this past May. In 2012, she was the recipient of the Goffstown Employee of the Year. She's attended classes at the New Hampshire Technical Institute, working towards a degree in criminal justice. Emily is currently a Goffstown resident. I ask her to swear in as a special officer tonight, please. Stand up there.
Good evening. How are you this evening?
Doing well, thank you.
Okay, here we are here tonight. It's a notice of appointment of officer to Emily Crosby of Goffstown in the county of Hillsborough. Whereas there is a vacancy in the office of Special Officer in the town of Goffstown Police Department, and whereas we, the subscribers, have confidence in your ability and integrity to perform the duties of said office, we do hereby appoint you, the said Emily Crosby, a Special Officer of the said town. And upon your taking the oath of office and having this appointment and the certificate of said oath of office recorded by the town clerk, you shall have the powers, perform the duties, and be subject to the liabilities of such office until another person shall be chosen and qualified in your stead. Given under our hands the 17th day of June, 2013, it is signed by the members of the Goffstown Board of Selectmen. So if you would raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, repeat your name. Repeat your name.
Emily Crosby.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge and perform all duties
discharge and perform all duties
incumbent on me as a special officer
incumbent on me as a special officer
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeable to the United States Constitution,
agreeable to the United States Constitution,
rules and regulations of the Constitution,
rules and regulations of the Constitution,
and laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and the ordinances of the town of Goffstown.
and the ordinance of the town of Goffstown.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome aboard.
Emily, would you like to introduce your family members?
Yes. My father Larry, his girlfriend Roxanne, and my mother Lorraine.
I'd like to have someone pin on your badge for me, please. At this time, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Christopher Weeks. Chris has been with us since August of 2007. During his tenure here, he is selected for a specialized assignment to the K-9 unit. He is currently the training officer for the Goffstown K-9 unit. Between 1998 and 2007, Chris was a full-time officer with the Raleigh, North Carolina Police Department, where he served with the United States Drug Enforcement Administration High-Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Task Force. Prior to that, he was honorably discharged from the United States Marine Corps, serving between 1992 and 1998. He was assigned as an MPK-9 handler at that time. Chris?
Good evening. Good, thank you. And you? This is another notice of appointment of officer to Christopher Weeks of Goffstown in the county of Hillsborough. Whereas there is a vacancy in the office of sergeant in the town of Goffstown Police Department, and whereas we, the subscribers, have confidence in your ability and integrity to perform the duties of said office, we do hereby appoint you, the said Christopher Weeks, a sergeant of the said town, and upon your taking the oath of office and having this appointment and the certificate of said oath of office recorded by the town clerk, you shall have the powers, perform the duties, and be subject to the liabilities of such office until another person shall be chosen and qualified in your stead. Given under our hands the 17th day of June, 2013, it is signed by the members of the Goffstown Board of Selectmen. Can you now raise your right hand, please? I'll give the oath. I state your name.
I, Christopher Weeks,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform all duties
discharge and perform all duties
incumbent upon me as a sergeant
incumbent upon me as a sergeant
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeable to the United States Constitution,
agreeable to the United States Constitution,
rules and regulations of the Constitution,
rules and regulations of the Constitution,
and laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and the ordinances of the town of Goffstown.
and the ordinances of the town of Goffstown.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Chris, would you like to introduce your family?
Sure, I would. My daughter Caroline, you wave, Caroline, say hi. My son Hayden, and my wife Lori.
Have someone put on your badge.
I would love to have a wife put on my badge.
It's funny, she said she'd love to pin it into you.
Yeah, I know, I know. All right, I wish to wear my best like I am. It's all right. Perfect, right?
Thank you. And we'd ask everyone if they're welcome to a small reception next door.
Across the hall.
That's okay with the board.
Now let folks on GTV 16 know that we're going to recess for a short time for the reception across the hall. We'll be back in approximately 15 minutes.
bring up the boss.
jeez.
He's getting it for the chairman.
Come on, Rocky.
Your family all gone? Things work out. Yeah, that's a. Looks like he's really done a tremendous job.
Enough for everyone.
There you go.
Thanks, Phil.
You're welcome.
Cookie Monster. The Cookie Monster.
Well, good evening and welcome back to the June 17th, 2013 Goffstown Board of Selectmen's meeting. We're back from a brief recess. We had a reception for two newly appointed Goffstown police officers. That's concluded. It's now 7:05. I apologize, we're a few minutes late. We're now going to take up the public hearing. It was scheduled for 7 o'clock, and I will read the public hearing notice. The Board of Selectmen will hold public hearings at 7 p.m. on June 3rd, 2013, and June 17th, 2013, at Goffstown Town Hall, 16 Main Street, pursuant to RSA 41:14-A, to receive public input regarding the acceptance of a donation of real estate parcels identified as MAP 34, lots 76A, 78, 80, 88, and 90. The decision regarding the acceptance of the property is scheduled for June 24th, 2013. There are maps up here for those who may not have them already that identify the parcels that we're considering. So without further ado, I would ask if there's anyone here from the public who would like to come forward, if you could state your name and address and share your thoughts with the board relative to this donation. It would be much appreciated. Good evening.
Hi, Tony Martz. I'm here we're representing the Goffstown Industrial Council, or Corporation. My understanding is that this would be a donation without any real strings attached, no reservations on what could be used, what the property could be used for by the town, and how the town might dispose of it. And I am aware of the fact that back when Steve Griffin was the planning director, he had a preliminary conceptual plan for doing some development in the back of the town hall. When the town was looking at having the Goffstown Court down here, and also at that time we were also looking at the post office possibly expanding outside of the bank building. I think there's a lot of potential back here for not only increased public uses, but also for economic development purposes in terms of better utilizing the river area in the back and really increasing traffic flow, pedestrian circulation and commercial uses in the village. So I'm very much in favor of this, so is the Goffstown Industrial Corporation. We would ask the selectmen to accept this donation, subject to the town undertaking a planning, use, and disposition study for possible public-private or public-private partnership economic development purposes, with a study to be completed and implemented before or at the March 2015 town meeting. Our concern would be that the town end up with this property and no ultimate disposition be really thought through, so that it would end up as basically improved or unimproved parking, and we really didn't get the full benefit the value of these pieces. So we'd ask that the selectmen, either at the time of donation or in conjunction with the donation, or certainly at the same time, commit to having a study done to actually look at the uses. Thank you.
And just for clarification, Tony, there is one lot that does have a building on it, probably that's the yarn shop, there's a lease on that,
Yes.
so we need to deal with that, so. But the others are, you're right, others are undeveloped, totally undeveloped, so.
Okay.
Appreciate your comments, thank you. Yes?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Heichel, 483 Mast Road. I'm coming tonight as a resident of Goffstown, and also as a member of the planning board. We have discussed this in the planning board. I actually, I would support this, but I have some concerns, and just a very few. One is that right now, somebody's paying taxes on this land, and if they donate it to the community, to the town, then the town will not be receiving that, which means that everyone else in the community is going to have to pony up for their portion of the lost revenue from for these parcels. The other thing is that I hope that the town has some sort of a plan in place, some sort of and we haven't heard it yet on the planning board, for instance. So for a community to have land that they don't have a plan for immediately has always been a problem with me. I've never really thought that government needs land that it doesn't have a plan for. It doesn't need to accumulate this stuff. It's much better in the hands of the private sector. And thirdly, is that there is some sort of a sunset on this, that if you're working to develop or do something with this, that at a particular time, if it's not done, then it needs to be sold, or something needs to be done by a certain date. Because I wouldn't want this to be a vacant land for 20 more years or a long time. Again, this is valuable downtown commercial property. Rezoning is important, but we have 500 county acres that we've had for a long time, and we still don't know what to do with that either yet. So I would just hope that that a plan comes into this relatively soon, and I trust the Industrial Corp would, has some sort of an idea that. So those are my concerns. I don't want to just. The town doesn't need to accumulate land that it doesn't have an immediate plan for, and have some sort of a sunset on it to get rid of it if they don't do something with it relatively soon for private use, and not for and maybe some parking, but not most of it should be tax revenue producing property, and not used for government use. That's all. We have enough here. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else would like to be heard?
Good evening, I'm Robbie Grady, representing the Goffstown Main Street program, and although our board of directors has not had a chance to review this officially, because we haven't had a board meeting this month, I feel fairly safe in saying that if a planning group were to come together to make some decisions or some recommendations on what the potential uses of this property would be, we'd love to be part of that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? In the back row, no? No one else wants to be heard on this? Everyone who wants to be heard having been heard, I am going to close the public hearing, and the selectmen will take this item up at a future date for discussion and deliberation. Thank you for your attendance and comments. We appreciate it. see, what do we have left here? We're back to some old let's finish up the committee reports. How about we do that? We discussed the exit 6 and 7 I-293 meeting. How about highway safety?
Highway safety met this past week. We had 6 items that we discussed. One was a parking issue, Mountain Road and Carr Court, due to the new improved Cumberland Farms. There's some early morning parking deliveries is an issue there, and Carl's going to work with the police chief in coming up with a no parking from a certain point to the corner ordinance, which will come to the board with their recommendations. Addison Road, there was the short area from Shirley Hill to Zan Drive. There's a very sharp corner, and there was a resident that was requesting a blind drive and/or a reduced speed limit. Within the next month, that section of Addison is going to be reclaimed and improved, so the resident has agreed to wait. Carl's going to see what he can do about improving site distances, and that may correct the issue.
Is that a matter of vegetation clearing kind of thing?
No,
or is
there's a
actually
stone
redesign?
wall. There may be some cutting down of bankings on one side of the curve. And Tyler Drive, there was a request for a reduced speed limit. The committee agreed that after running radar, the average speed was 26 miles an hour. It's posted at 30. There really isn't a speeding issue there, so the request was denied. Shirley Hill Road, there was a request for a blind person sign. And that opened up a discussion with signs that are put up for similar reasons, blind person, any of those cautionary signs, that may be there for 15, 20 years, and that individual may no longer live there. So they're going to look at developing a spreadsheet so that once a sign like that is approved, it's put on a spreadsheet, and then periodically a mechanism will be developed to check to make sure it's still a valid sign. Gorham Pond Road, there was a request for a blind driveway sign, and there are very short sight distances there, so the committee recommended to approve that, or recommended to the board for approval. And then the last issue was a request to have the flashing lights at the Rite Aid on Mass Road. It's a traffic light, but at 11 o'clock until 6 o'clock, it's flashing yellow, masked, red in the opposite direction. And there was a request from the fire department to have that converted 24 hours to a traffic light so that they can utilize Opticom. Committee felt that traffic is so low in those evening hours that Opticom really isn't going to do anything, because Opticom's designed to turn the light green and have traffic flow. But the light's already yellow flashing, so Mass Road traffic is going to flow anyway. So the recommendation that'll come to the board is to leave it as a flashing light from 11 to 6. Some of the residents in the area really didn't like it 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning coming to the end of their street and having a red light when there's absolutely no traffic. So those are the 6 issues we discussed, and the recommendations will be coming to the board.
Great, thank you. Phil, do you have a report from
Sure.
the planning board?
Planning board, new alternate, Scott Callender, was sworn in. The board dealt with 2 conditional use permits. One was for singular wireless. Actually, it's an upgrade to 4G for the new singular wireless. And the way they're doing their upgrade is some of this particular one is they're adding the 4G to the existing 2G and 3G that's up there, so it requires an additional cabinet and additional antennas, where some companies, they go in and they remove the existing cabinets, they replace it with new cabinets, and everything is basically an upgrade, but this one isn't that way. And the other one was also on the tower, up on the mountain rather, an existing tower on the mountain. And that was what we had to deal with as far as applications. And one of the other things was the acceptance of road maintenance bond for Catamount Ridge. That was voted on. This was a reduction. Actually, it's not termed a reduction anymore. What we have is the construction bond and then we have the maintenance bond. After the road is accepted by the town, technically, that maintenance, that construction bond is retired, and then there's a new maintenance bond that's created in its place. And in the past, it was one bond, but it was just restructured as a maintenance bond. So the Board of Selectmen had voted on that back in January, and this came up. And since there was such a long time frame in there, I brought up that, like the one we did 2 weeks ago, when we approve them, we just do it subject to making sure that there's no obstructions in the right-of-way. And that's basically what the planning board did. Which was a good, it gave a good, the opportunity for me to explain to a lot of the new members on the planning board about that process when you accept the roads, having something in it to make sure that there's no encumbrances in it. So, that was the planning board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions from?
I have a question for Nick. Fire chief was asking about the yellow light being taken off and going back to a signal. How does that fall in for liability, Nick, with the fact that if the fire trucks are going through there and our opticoms are operating and we don't get that signal to operate, it still flashes yellow? What's the liability on that as far as, is there any consideration about the liability?
I don't think there's any liability with or without Opticom. I think the responsibility is still on the driver under the RSAs to drive with due regard.
Due regard, yeah.
Those signaling devices only give us the courtesy, if you will, but not the right to go through. So I don't think there's any change in liability.
I know, when I go through that intersection at night, if I'm driving the fire truck or operating the fire truck, because of the fact that it's a flashing yellow, it's a caution for everybody. I haven't had any complaints yet, but the siren's going, lights are going. I mean, I'm going to let whoever's there know that I'm, you know, coming through.
And the flashing yellow is only in the Mast Road direction.
Yeah,
Everyone else, which is, again, during the daylight hours when the traffic light is operating, your concern, or the apparatus driver's concern, is that if the light is red, there's a line of traffic stopped, and the Opticom changes it to green to get that traffic moving. After 11, with a yellow flashing light, there wouldn't be cars stopped. So any cars going down Mast Road would continue through that intersection, would just pull over for the apparatus. So there really shouldn't be any issues after 11 o'clock.
Thank you.
Any other questions on any of the reports? All right, thank you. The last item under the new business was the 2013 Selectmen goals. At that meeting, I volunteered to take a stab at drafting a mission statement relative to attracting additional commercial industrial development. Catherine was kind enough to print those out. I tried to take a stab at a brief goal statement, a mission statement, and then some basic steps maybe that would lead us towards fulfilling mission statements. And by no means is there any pride of authorship here, so it's just a draft that's thrown out to start to stimulate some discussion. I think there's consensus amongst the board that this is probably one of the top, if not the top issue that needs to be addressed. I think we heard it loud and clear at the all boards meeting. I think we've heard it at least anecdotally throughout the community as we talk with folks. So that's why I thought it was appropriate to start with this one. So I throw that out there for the board's consideration, and where do you want to go from here? Go ahead, Nick.
Mr. Chair, I think you captured the overarching goals well in the mission statement. And I would think that these 6 items should be the points that we now establish concrete objectives beneath, so that at the end of the year, we can say, okay, we achieved 1 and 2, or we, number 4, we achieved A. But this is a good synopsis, I think, of what we talked about at that all boards meeting.
Yeah, and that's the way I envisioned it. We'd take these as the general steps and then come up with action items and deliverable dates and, you know, at least some projections, to give this some real concrete meaning. Because as we discussed, I mean, this is a long road we're gonna have to go down, but we're never gonna get down that unless we take the first steps. And so I think those are the steps we need to take. And I think one of the most important first steps is to identify those other local, regional, and state entities that are important in the process. Identify them, contact them, get some initial meetings together with them, you know, hear their ideas, what their vision might be, how we can modify this mission statement, what other steps we need to take, what other goals we need to address. Other comments? And don't be bashful, like I say, I don't mind.
No, I think you hit it on the head. I mean,
Everything's good.
I think number 6, you know, we've got other committees that are gonna take care of some of these things, you know, will help, hopefully. We got, the EDC is trying to develop some of these things.
Yeah, and I tried to list the steps in the basic order that they needed to be addressed so that it's a logical progression of things, because first thing we need to know is what we got to deal with. What are we looking at? I mean, where can we encourage development? And then the second one is, you know, look at the infrastructure, because it's the infrastructure, you know, you build the infrastructure, they'll come. I mean, we know this. People around the country know this. So once we identify the areas that are prime for a progressive type development, how do we bring the infrastructure to them? Where do those infrastructure resources extend to now? Where do they need to extend to progressively bring development into town? So, yes, Nick.
I would think items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 could almost be accomplished simultaneously. And by that I mean, if we had a series of meetings with our water precincts, our sewer commission, economic development, and identify, I think a lot of this work for number 1 has been done. We have the build-out map from Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. We have a lot of reports that talk about all the natural and historic resources. 2, 3, 4, and 5, we really need those other entities to let us know exactly what are the size lines that we have in those areas, what needs to be extended, what are the possible areas, maybe in public works, grant-wise, what's out there for funding for extending some of these infrastructure items. But it's really water, sewer, natural gas. Those are the 3 big ones. And
114 corridor already has a very large sewer line going out through there now, and they've got extended the water line back, so most of that's close. We just need to get gas coming up the street from the Hillsborough County home. To get to that area at least, if we're looking at 114, it'll all come this way.
but saying, and that's what I mean, if we have everybody in the same room, we get some whiteboards and we say, okay, these are the areas we want to identify, what's there? What is sewer commission, what's your plan for getting sewer? You know, if we're gonna wait until a developer comes, that could be 15 years from now. How do we do it? How do we get it done? And then hopefully get the development to move in. But I think that's a matter of just setting some meeting dates and workshops and getting together, but.
I think now that I'm looking at this again, I think I would add one more step in the mission statement. That would be to identify the entities that need to be brought together. Who are we talking about? EDC, we're talking about the water precincts, we're talking about planning board, we're talking about regional planning commissions, we're talking about, you know what I mean? I think it's important to identify those because, as you say, Nick, those are the folks who want to get together in a room and start hashing things out. So I think perhaps maybe we could add that as probably the first step. Because, you know, the mission statement talks about working with local, state and regional. Well, who are they? Who are these people? We need to identify them.
Maybe we get the county to come in, because the county's got that gas line down there. Maybe they come in and let us know what's going on.
And I agree with you, Nick, a lot of this information's out there. We just need to
We
bring
need
it
to
all together.
compile it,
We need to-
exactly.
Exactly, bring it all together. Develop maps that show this all, you know, succinctly, so that we can start the work in earnest. Yes.
Maybe as a first step, we reach out to all of the committees, conservation, planning, economic development, and ask them to go through any documents or reports that that committee or commission may have that pertains to economic development, natural resources, historical resources, and forward them to the board, so that we can start that compiling process.
So ID the entities and documents that they may have?
Mhm. Right, ID the entities and have them
Yes, that's what I meant, yeah.
identify the documents.
That sounds good.
Do we want to identify
Sure,
those entities?
sure. Why don't we work on that? Let's just start right on off. I've got Conservation Commission, Planning Board, EDC.
Industrial
Southern-
Development,
Yeah, EDC, you mean, or?
Industrial Development Corporation.
Oh, Industrial Development Corp, yeah, EDC, yeah. Southern New Hampshire Regional Planning?
Mm-hmm.
We wanna bring in somebody from police and fire as well to see what effect that would have,
Is that point for yours?
or are we still too early in the stages?
I don't know if it's too early, but it's just a different step. I think this step is just compiling, unless, I mean, police department may have traffic studies, or, you know, if there's any plans, any formal plans, I would think, that have already been developed.
Yeah.
Main Street program?
Yeah.
We may have people already, Tim Redmond's trying to talk with the gas company, last we knew it, see if they could find out what it would take to get that line to come down 114 from where it is now.
Hmm.
And one of the committees, they're working on that, so maybe we'll have some information.
See, I think that pinpoints the importance
Right.
of bringing this group together, because you got people going off doing
Right.
things, and, you know, it's like,
Mhm.
it's hard to know.
He's on EDC, right?
Yep.
Right.
Hillsborough County, don't they have a formal charrette?
It's already been done.
Right, so we should request a copy if we don't already have one.
We already have one.
We do.
But I agree, you know, collect these documents and put them in a library somewhere, so that as we have a group who's gonna start
Check
working
it
on this
off.
thing, then they can go right to the documents and see what work has already been done and is out there and available.
Parks and Rec, I think, has a master plan that they just did. For recreational.
Town has a master plan, too.
Town has the planning board, master plan there.
DPW? Down at Pernardville, don't they have a,
We got sewer on there,
We have the
we got sewer in the
results
calls.
of Plan Pinardville this year.
Right, that's coming up. We also have a village plan.
Yep.
We have the 1967 master plan.
Now you're reaching, Phil.
No, we do.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about. I mean, the irony is we're looking back at stuff 50 years
50
ago.
years ago?
HDC have a plan with the Grassmere Town Hall?
They have their
Other
districts, their zones.
Yeah,
I have the districts, they're all in a.
But I thought there was also a written plan for the completion of the town hall and,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but that's just for the building.
right, but I think that's still, the Grassmere area
Oh, we
is-
have that. We have all that
Mhm.
information. When I say we, mean we have it here at Town Hall.
Mhm.
Well, maybe we need to do is get all these guys in here, put a big blackboard up, and throw everything at it and see what
Well,
sticks.
my thought was that we develop a letter from the board, you know, telling folks the journey that we're embarking on, and that, you know, we would like, you know, we'd value the input from your group. And we're gonna try and pull together some sort of planning meetings to
Well, that,
move forward.
economic development self-assessment tool,
Mhm.
what's the timeline in that being done? Cause that will basically give you all that information you're looking for.
I don't know what the
Yes and
actual
no.
timeline was on it. It's not really gonna, that's more for properties that wanna be shovel-ready, I think they were looking at.
It's also a self-assessment on how streamlined the process is for a developer, and is it easy to get their approvals? What are the various hurdles they go through?
That'll probably come along as you find the places you
I
can
think that's a
actually
good
get into.
tool that we should incorporate into what we're doing. I don't know if it'll result in a plan.
I guess I know there's been different representatives to economic development over the years from this board, but a lot of this work EDC has done. I guess
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
like to find out where they're at right now in all of this.
Well, that's my point. Make contact with these folks, say, bring us up to speed. You know, we need to assemble all the information, the most current, up-to-date information.
But I think the difficulty that we're running into is that there's been such a turnover on EDC. And that was the point I was trying to make. To me, it was a little frustrating to sit here and have it seem like not much has gotten done. A lot of these things have been done, but they've been done a long time ago. And people that are on it aren't aware of what's been done. And I think that's part of what we need to do here, is to pull that stuff together in here. And perhaps Al was chairman for what, 6 years? And Al was chairman when Shabbat came into the industrial council two years ago. And maybe we need to reach out to some of the former chairmen of some of the committees to try to find out from them some of these things that have been done, so that at least we have them, and we know what we're looking for.
I know they did a lot of work on retention of businesses through their business visitation.
Right, there was a whole program with that, where they identified the businesses, they went there, and they contacted them, and they did there's a whole inventory someplace.
Right.
Right. And I think that's the intent, is for us not to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Right.
A lot of this information
Meet
has
with
already
these
been
groups.
assembled, it's
Down
sitting
here.
on a shelf somewhere.
Yep.
And let's get it
Exactly.
dusted off, bring it in here, let's go through all of the plans and see what do we keep, what's not
What needs to be
applicable.
updated,
Updated, exactly.
what needs to be followed up on.
And then this board needs to come up with the comprehensive coordination of all of that information to go forward.
Yeah, I agree.
How long's Derek been on working with EDC?
Good question. For a while.
Perhaps that's somebody that maybe you could talk to.
Yep.
And I'm sure Derek can put a list together on some of these things.
Well, this is an important step, so I'd like if we could give some more thought to this. Like I say, touch base with Derek, see what he can.
Now, would these,
Bring to us.
was this intended as all the goals for 2013, or just one of the goals? Okay,
goal.
this is the
Yeah.
economic development goal, basically.
Walk before we run.
So do we want to adopt our goals? What I had done is put, the other 5 in here, basically, with the adding things that was on Nick's list last week. And this can be number 6.
Okay.
We can make this one number 6.
Well, if it's okay with the other boards, why don't we sort of wrap up on this, and we'll, again, if you've got comments or ideas on other places where we might find information, if we can put it on the agenda next week as old business, so we can revisit it,
Oh, okay.
see if folks have come up with other stuff, if Derek has come
And
up
if
with
anyone
other
has any
suggestions.
changes on this, because what I'll try to do is incorporate Hollis's as number 6 on this list.
Right.
Okay.
Okay?
But there are other goals, I didn't want to stop the
Oh, okay.
conversation, I was just wanted to wrap it up on this goal,
All right.
and then look at the other goals that were in the packet here. Do you have?
Well, my question and suggestion was gonna be, at some point, once we finish with this, can we wrap it all together with a synopsis of the all boards meeting in a document that we can then send out to all the people that were here that evening to say, this is what you said, this is what the board heard, these are the goals we've developed, and these are the action steps that we're gonna take from now until we meet again next year.
Did we capture it correctly in your eyes?
What if we brought all the boards back together one more time, just
That's
as
rough.
as a closing, you know?
Yeah, but that's.
As well.
That's tough.
Just, I know it's tough, but you know, hey, if it's gonna happen, it has to happen one way or another, you need to. I mean, it's just something to throw out there if it would work. Of course, that may change a lot of structure too, so.
I don't think those representatives would mind if they knew
No.
there was something. I think what they
Yeah,
don't wanna do is come here year after year,
Yeah, voice their.
voice their
concerns.
plans, and then come back the next year to do it again.
Well, I know a lot of them have been contacting me saying, okay, did the board reach their goals yet? Because we want to get going and we want to be in line with their goals. So they're waiting on this board to,
And I think once we've got something
Finalize the goals.
concrete, I don't mind calling all boards back together again. I think they would appreciate that. I mean, knowing
Well-
that their message was heard, it was taken to heart, and we're starting to take steps to address it.
and they may have some ideas that we don't see, or, you know, might something that's not, you know, like you say, a lot of these people got things going on we don't know about, and we just,
Yeah, there's a lot of good minds out there, a lot
Yeah.
of people, with a lot of good thoughts. We don't know them all.
does the board want to prioritize any of these goals when we put them together, or?
I think that's probably a good idea. I mean, you know, we only got so much energy and so many places we can focus our attention and our resources, so I think we need to.
And I think they're gonna naturally fall into things that we can accomplish in the short term,
Yep.
midterm, and long-term things that, you know, we can maybe start exploring, but this board or the next board is not really gonna have the ability to do. I would say that this process is a little different than we've done in the past, and we're at the end of June. So the reality is, getting this document finalized and finished may not leave a lot of time till December to get a lot of things done, but I think once the framework is finished, the future years will flow easier because we've gotten those goals set out, and now we have benchmarks for more than just this particular board, the entire town.
Yeah, I think it's important to get it right from the outset and set the framework properly, as opposed to forging ahead just for the sake of moving things quickly, because, I mean, there's a lot to chew on, there's a lot here. And we don't want to leave anything out, we want to make sure we give everything its full consideration, so. So you want to go through the rest of the goals that you had in the packet?
Well, we have our human resource goals, and as you know, we have 3 collective bargaining agreements to negotiate this year. Now, that's gonna get done, whether it's a goal or not, it's gonna get done. So, I mean, you can make your decision whether this stays as a goal. We also need to reconvene our human resources ad hoc committee, because that was supposed to be a quarterly type of basis. Performance evaluations for department heads. The plan was to implement those before July 1st of this year. And then the total compensation review, and the board wanted to conduct an internal review of municipal employees' wages and benefits. And you have that thick book on that.
Yes. Yes, Nick.
Question on that. So for letter C, the performance evaluations, what needs to be done? What is left other than performing the evaluations?
That's it.
Yeah.
The previous board had arrived at the
You have the
actual
forms.
evaluation forms. And we had so many versions, I'm gonna have to look back and see which was the final version.
So is that something the
So-
board can
That's something we're ready to
do?
do now. Yeah, let's see what those look like,
Okay.
and then, let's tell the, yeah, we'll start doing those evaluations for the department heads. No reason we can't, we're ready to go.
I will put the forms in your packets next week.
Great.
Question?
Yes.
Sue, could you email them to us sooner, just so we
Sure.
can review them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The past several years, communications with the public was a big priority for the board, and they used multimedia, GTV now with a new coordinator. That's moving forward. Also, we've been keeping the website up to date, press releases on issues as they come up. Communication about work projects, I think they're doing a great job, whether it's on Nixle or the website or press releases on roads that are being worked on. We're continuing the meeting summaries and distribution of summaries to expedite the dissemination of information. We're doing all of these now, so are they really goals, or?
I know a lot of them
It's a work in progress.
Column for the Goffstown News, that was, the board had decided to do that as issues came up that they wanted to do, so it wouldn't be like a regular column, it would be on a, if there was a topic that you
Topic-specific.
wanted to get information out there, so that's really not a column, because a column would be on a regular basis, so that's more like a press release now. Host television shows on important issues. There was an idea to do it 20 minutes before a selectmen's meeting, to have a selectman and the department they represent meet, and whenever there was an issue that they wanted to get out on GTV.
Prior to each Board of Selectmen meeting?
That's,
Yeah, I know.
That's, that's pretty aggressive.
I don't know if that's practical.
Yeah, I don't know if it is at all.
we take out that
Yeah, I would
last
take-
sentence?
Yeah,
Okay.
on important issues as they arise.
Community surveys and web-based surveys.
Are we doing this other than the police department one that gets done every
Police department
year or
did
two,
one,
every other year?
Parks and Rec has done one, we've just done like quick ones on the website, like how often do you watch GTV, things like that. One that I'd like to do is, how do you like to get your news from, about town government, you know? Do you want it in print? Where do you go for news about your government? I would like to give them options and see where people like to get their news. Is it the newspaper, is it the website, what's predominant method that people are using? Making it easier to interact with the town, we're trying to get more and more of our forms online to be interactive. The business occupancy project is still going on, that committee. We have the meeting packets on the website, so they,
But I would suggest these items that talk about continuing, like continue to keep the town website, continue meeting summaries. I mean, those are not really goals in my mind. Those
Do
have
you-
already
do you
been
want-
accomplished.
Right,
Yeah.
do you want, and that's what I'm saying, a lot of this is just the continuation of what we're doing. Do you have any new ideas that you wanna put here for communications?
I think these are, in some respects, goals, but they're just not measurable. For instance, interacting with the town forms. What percentage of town forms currently are interactive? And if it's only 10%, then maybe our goal is to increase that to 25% or 50% by the end of the year. So it's something measurable. So it can still remain a goal, because we're still striving to get 100%. It may not happen this year.
Yeah, and I would agree with you in that instance, Nick. But what continuous selectmen meeting packets on the town website. I mean,
That's been accomplished.
That's been accomplished.
So we can take that out.
Sure. Continue to keep the town website current. Continue meeting summaries and distributions for summaries to expedite the dissemination of information. Send the board of selectmen summaries to each committee chair?
That's been accomplished.
Yeah. We send them the link to that summary each week.
D, the Board of Selectmen will schedule all boards meeting. I think that goal there should change to reflect what we're doing now.
Mhm.
develop a strategic,
Some kind of base to go off from.
Plan based upon
Plan.
comments received at the all boards meeting.
that is measurable and will be reviewed at the following
Mhm.
all boards meeting.
It's so tough to do strategic planning in municipal government when, you know, you have changeover constantly. So take the continue ones out.
That's my feeling.
No, I agree.
Number G, number G again, letter G.
Letter G.
Continue community surveys.
You may want to say increase community surveys.
Or can we target something for this year? You know, is there a survey that we want, is there a certain thing that we want to survey? That could be our goal.
Well, we're talking about surveying the land, so we could change from from development, looking and see how much we had in the different areas, correct? I mean, that'd be a goal to go and say, okay, look, we've got this land, and pinpoint those areas that you could maybe develop.
And I think in the economic development thing we were talking about, that would
Yeah.
probably fall
Yeah,
under
fall into
that.
that, yeah.
Yeah, do you want, I don't know if this is the year for police surveys. Is this the year St. A's just police?
Around? Like a body for a moment, sir, somebody backed into your vehicle.
Oh, that's nice.
No damage to it, they just hit, from like, one of the tow hitches in the front.
No problem.
Okay, these, old Denise Roberge. So, I'll, get you guys in contact later.
Fine. No biggie.
Denise?
Yeah. Big deal. Just a tow hitch.
I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. What was it?
Surveying.
We were talking
So-
about
surveys.
survey. What survey do we want this year? I can check and see if police is scheduled for this year. Because they do every other year, don't they? And I don't recall them coming in last year.
I think it's this year coming. There was none last year, I believe it was the year before.
You know, and maybe we want to develop, and I don't know if it's available, I know St. A's has done that police survey every other year. I mean, would they take on another department or another issue to survey for us?
Well, see, I don't know, because that's in conjunction with the department that they have up there, because
It's part of the,
Well, it's part of the sociological research, isn't it? Statistical research? But I know there's that connection between St. A's and the police department and the criminal justice system, but I think the research is done by their sociology class. Or maybe reach out,
Somebody at the
UNH
school.
also does community surveys. I'm just not sure if that resource is available to us in the off years when the police isn't doing it for some other department.
Well, could we at least contact them and find out what types of community surveys they do, what
Yeah, let me
categories?
ask the chief who his contact is now, because I know Dr. Dupre has left,
yeah,
right?
he retired.
Yeah, so I don't know who his contact is now, but let me find out, and, because that was a great resource, if we can get one a year done on, and if the board has a specific topic that they would like researched.
Yeah, and if we can find out what's the suite of surveys they do, we could identify, well, that's a good idea. We've
Yeah.
never done that before, why don't we?
Maybe that's our goal,
That's
is to
our goal.
develop a resource of agencies, companies, academic institutions that could perform town surveys.
Yeah, they
For
do
us.
this for class credit,
Mhm.
so it doesn't cost us any money, but if you hired like UNH Research Center to do it, that's gonna cost you.
But there may be similar classes in
And other
some of the
colleges.
other colleges, UNH Manchester, Hester College, Southern New Hampshire University.
All right, anything else in the communications, number 2, folks? Why don't we redo that one and bring it back and we can see
Okay.
what it looks like in cleaned up form. Number 3 is project management.
I think under the Barnard Land redevelopment, I think the reorganization of the pit is leading to the development of one rectangular field up there in the near future.
Do we have the reuse plan?
Yes, they have
That's the,
the plan now. And we gave the okay for Carl to go forward and get the pit organized.
Right.
Thus freeing up that land where all that is currently stored so that he could do the rectangular field. Was it 1 or 2 we were doing?
I don't
think it
remember.
was
In the short term.
Yeah, I don't recall. Yeah, it was 2. But yeah, the grading plan.
This all can be updated.
the road plan is ongoing. Carl is gonna come in
Mhm.
monthly, or
Mhm.
we already went over that last week or the week before. Lynchville Danish Park is winding down.
Implement new finance software, that's already.
That's ongoing,
that-
yeah.
That can come.
We're hoping for the first of the year.
That wouldn't be a bad idea to have maybe at one of our meetings, some updates.
Yeah, well.
You know, from, on one evening, an update on how the finance software implementation is going, the police IMC software,
Well, isn't the cable revolving fund pretty much done?
that's done.
Those, yeah, both revolving funds are done,
So
GTV
that
and
could be
the,
crossed off, right?
Yep.
Police department software,
The
That's
IMC.
it.
that's the IMC,
Yeah.
yep.
that's been done as well.
That,
Hmm.
no,
That's
that's,
on,
Oh, it has
it's on,
that's, work in progress.
yeah, it's ongoing work in progress.
I think, did we sign
Because
off
the
on the
police chief just
contract?
came
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago with for the approval to go
Right.
with the purchase.
Fire station improvements,
That's
what,
coming back probably.
right, he's, getting a design done.
Yep.
Explore non-ordinance related Pinardville improvements.
Yeah, that was at the,
Is that coming out of the plan of Palooza?
correct.
Yeah, and that came out of Ed All Boards, I think, because that was in your notes from All Boards, these red ones.
There were some items that didn't need ordinance changes,
Mm.
but still need, yeah.
Gates, those sort of things. What does this mean, need a comprehensive plan for all building expansion projects? What does that mean?
That
Oh,
was,
town?
that was the coordination of fire expansion of stations, the police expansion of needs, the library expansion,
Okay.
Parks and Rec, trying to
So
coordinate
all municipal.
a municipal expansion.
That's a big one.
And mind too, that I believe in CIP is, there's a request of funding of a master plan update, and all of these things would probably fit right into the master plan update.
Does the master plan talk about the funding and coordination of expansions?
It just talks about the needs of each department, as well as the land use section and transportation.
Well, it recommends to look for alternate sources of funding.
Increase consolidation, streamlining, and efficiency of service delivery.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where that fit, but I put
That
under
goes
project
along with the
management.
sharing, the Southern New Hampshire
Yeah.
regional sharing.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of at a loss as to how we more succinctly state that as a goal. What does that mean?
I don't know if that goes into project management or more budget.
What were your thoughts, Sue? Is that your, I assume the.
No, I took that from Nick's. I was just trying to
Oh,
find a
what does
place to
that
fit
mean?
it in.
In a way, I think that's something that's always ongoing, we're always doing that.
Mhm.
I mean, that right there is the reason why we supported finance software.
Right.
That's why I think it needs to be more in the budget section versus project management.
So would you
Because
create-
our attempt is to always look for and examine ways that we can improve, increase efficiency, so that we're not having to hire extra people, or we're not wasting resources, which is a reflection of the budget.
So it really doesn't fall under A or B, so would we create another letter?
Well, I think what we're saying is it doesn't belong under project management.
That's what I'm saying. If you bring it
No,
under
it's-
budgets,
Oh, I'm sorry.
there's
Put it on the
A and
budgets.
B, and it
It just
doesn't
happens to
fit.
be A and B in both of those, that's why.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no, under budgets I was talking. Will we create a C for that? And then put some examples or some
Yeah, I think that-
specifics?
Yeah, I think that needs some fleshing out. So maybe a new subsection C with some
Okay.
bullets.
Such as the finance software.
All right, then item 4 is the budgets. Oversight for the 13 budget, preparation for the 14 budget.
And I think you need to have a goal for the 14 budget.
Yeah.
I mean, department heads are starting to work, especially the two departments that have trustees or commissioners to report to. They do their budgets really early. They're already working on their budget. So if you have any direction for them and what you're looking for, this would be the time. Their budgets are due to me by mid-August, so.
Well, certainly a big difference between a level funded budget and a level tax rate.
Mhm.
So
And
which are we gonna strive for?
Well, you could have, I mean, a goal could be the level funded budget. You may end up with a level tax rate.
the problem with the level funded budget, it doesn't take into consideration revenues.
Exactly.
It just looks at spending and doesn't look at revenues.
But that
But
doesn't
level
necessarily
tax rate
have to
does.
be the end point.
But why have a budget why have a goal that's not something that's a realistic
Not achievable.
thing to achieve, that you looking at say, well, we know that that's not really what it is, because we gotta consider the revenue. So then it's not,
What do
As
people
you
care
say,
about? People care about not increasing their tax bill, right?
right,
So that's a function of assessing,
that's right.
it's a function of revenues, and it's a function of expenses.
Spending, spending,
There's 3 factors that go into your tax bill.
Did you say that's assessing revenues and expenses?
Assessing, the
Yes.
assessment of their home,
Assessing.
their the revenues and the expenses.
More reason to increase the commercial industrial base.
Right.
But if your revenues stay the same, and your assessing goes up, your assessed values go up, and the budget goes up to match that, don't the out-of-pocket dollars go up from the residents?
If your assessing goes up, it has to, doesn't it?
My home, if all the homes appreciate in value,
Which they won't.
I'm
Oh,
just,
okay.
I'm just saying,
Theoretically.
because
Okay.
theoretically,
All right.
and the budget goes up to match that increase in assessed value. No, see, those two are independent. I think it's revenues and budget.
Revenues and expenses.
And if your assessed value goes down, that's,
Well, I say assessment of the town, because if you had an influx of elderly exemptions and veterans credits, that means someone's gonna pay for that.
correct, that's what I
And
mean,
it's everyone
that's
else
gonna
that doesn't
increase.
get that.
Right. Correct.
So that's why I like to look at the total town assessment. And how much commercial property did we gain in a year?
Could we also examine 2012?
In terms of what?
Well, we always look at, the oversight of 2013, the budget preparation for 2014, but we kind of forget 2012. We have the end figures. Where did all of the budgets fall at the end? Where were the surpluses? Where were the shortfalls? I think that's important information for us as well.
You should have that in your final report for 2012,
In whose final report?
the final budget
Yeah,
report.
to have the unexpended,
Expenses,
have the unexpended line.
the monthly report in December,
I don't get that. I wouldn't have that.
you wouldn't have that, okay.
Right, okay.
I can get you the
Well,
final
in fact, we were gonna post all that information back on the website, because it had come down.
budget, yeah, they're so into the finance software, meeting
sure.
every day on that. Yeah, let me get you the final 2012 after all the adjustments were made. I think Dawn should be able to print that out.
Okay. What about the rest? I think the rest of it is pretty, well, let's see. Department heads providing reports. Estimated budget deviation in excess of 10%.
We changed that to quarterly.
Quarterly, calendar year, quarterly?
So their quarterly reports are on your drive in your, on your computer. If you want me to, I can print them out and put them in a 3-ring binder there too. Quarterly
That'd be
reports.
helpful, yeah. Okay, anything else in 13 or 12? We can move on to the 14. Back to what is our goal?
I would say level tax rate.
I think that's what the public's looking for. You might as well lay it out there. I mean, that's a goal, whether it's attainable or not.
Well, I think as much as it may hurt anybody in, most of these departments are probably gonna have to come in with a level line and say, look, we're gonna stop here for a year or so. As painful as it may be to them, it's more painful to the taxpayer. I mean, to have to realize more money going out of their pockets, I don't think it would hurt any of these departments to come in 1 year, just say, okay, we're good. Come in with a level line and stop. They've got
So our goal would be to strive for a level tax rate.
Absolutely.
we got review the CIP requests in the summer. Meet with the budget committee. Establish ground rules for collaborative meetings. Seek their input regarding preparation of the 14 budget. Their goals, mine, that seems appropriate to me. As well as meeting with the school board regarding their CIP submissions. We tried that last year. Wasn't all that successful, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have it as a goal to try and make it a little more successful this year. And then special separate article discussions for non-appropriation articles. Early in the year, earlier in the process, I know what that means. It may by some date certain. I mean, we have to have a goal. How do you have a goal?
Yeah,
Just earlier in the process.
well, the deadline for special articles, which includes petitioned articles, is the second Tuesday in January. And this was in because I remember Steve Fornier said, yeah, well, if they're not appropriation articles and there's something we're putting on, can't we discuss that earlier in the process so that we don't get bogged down with all the discussion during budget season? So if you have any general type of articles that you want to discuss that aren't tied to appropriations, we can do those earlier.
But I don't think that really should be a goal.
No?
I mean, that's
That's
something
part of
that
the program.
depends on how it comes up. I mean, you know, to specifically work as a goal and say, well, what ones are we gonna discuss now? I mean, I don't see that being,
Most of them are appropriation articles. They're very seldom that you don't have appropriation articles.
What would be the objective to get to that goal? Talk about them earlier.
Yeah.
Which is, so it's the same thing, so I agree, it's really not a goal.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay, let's
Yeah.
take that one out.
and that discussion's gonna be as required.
Yep.
Okay, then number 5 is town committee members.
And this was just to, we have a recognition program now in the rules of procedure, and every year, when a new board comes on, they look at their rules of procedure, see if they want any changes. And no changes were made this year, so. Take that out. Now regarding training, that's ongoing for all committee members. I mean, the law lecture series is available for all your land use members. And LGC and NHMA do a series of selectmen workshops, local official workshops. They have all the training.
If I can.
Mhm.
You know, we deal with this, I mean, we, outside of the school board, we're the only board that meets on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
We deal with the right to know law, we deal with changes to legislation that affect how we operate
Right.
on a regular basis. Other committees don't, and that's the difficulty. If you get a committee that meets once or twice a month, the right to know law is not something to them that is something that's on the top of that priority to function because they basically have an agenda that they're going through. So the only concern that I always have with it is that do people really know the right to know law? Do they understand the right to know law? Do they really know what a public body is and when they're subject to, what constitutes a quorum? How many members go someplace if you have so many members of one committee meeting someplace to go have, let's say, a drink or
Coffee, yeah.
coffee or something?
Yeah.
You know, just to be aware of that, I mean, and that's always been
We did, well, twice since I've been here, we've had different lawyers come in and present the right to know law and getting different types of reviews on each. Once was attorneys from Divine Millimet came in, and once we had Cordell Johnson come in, LGC.
Right, I understand, but somehow, I mean, like in the planning board, we've had, what, 4 or 5 new alternates? I just swore an alternate in last week. I don't know what he knows about the right to know law. I don't think I don't know if he understands what a quorum is.
I understand.
What, you know, how do we deal with that? And I'm not saying anything about any particular
rely-
person or, you know,
Typically, we rely on NHMA to provide the training for our people. and we can organize that and have them come down and do that. But will they attend?
But not only that, if you're scheduling something for NHMA to come in and do that, that's fine for the people here. So you get a turnover, and let's say 3 months down the road, you got 3 or 4 new committee members.
Yeah, I know.
How do you deal with that? Somehow, you know, I mean, for us, on the inside of our packets, we have some information. Is there something that we should develop that
For the
should be a
committee?
standard format as an agenda, or an agenda, you know, part of their, I mean, similar to the bottom footer on here about any person with a disability? It's a standard format that we've adopted for the town. Any
How many
town committee.
committees go in non-public, though?
Well, not necessarily non-public, but the right to know law. What is the right to know law? What is a quorum? Those types of things. How do we, I mean, is this something that we should do, let's say, biannually? Should we do this, offer a workshop through the board?
Nick, do you want, did you?
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, when we hire a new employee, there's a period of, they come into town hall and they have to go through some type of an orientation. Now, all of your right to know, we have the conflict of interest, that whole procedure, that could be covered fairly quickly. Probably on a one-to-one basis in a half hour or less. So maybe instead of providing the swearing-in papers to us, so when we go to our next meeting, we just swear the person in, maybe it's a formal process where they have to come into town hall to get sworn in, and in that time, they're also explained what a public meeting is. They're told what makes up a quorum. Someone actually shows them what that conflict of interest, the code of conduct is, and what it means. And it may take 15 or 20 minutes, but at least when that person leaves after they've gotten sworn in formally, they have an understanding of what is expected of them.
Yeah, 15 or 20 minutes, they're not gonna get a full education on the right to know law. I mean, I've seen things that are 3 hours long on the right to know law and all aspects of it.
But I think the point is we provide some training to them at some appropriate level, in appropriate detail.
I understand, we can provide them the documents and kind of briefly go over what's in each, but you're still relying upon them reading it and understanding
Sure,
it.
but I don't think they need to know that a meeting or a non-meeting is when you meet
Right.
with your attorney or for negotiations, or, but I
Right.
think what Phil mentioned is important.
They're a public
If you
body,
meet
yep.
with enough people to, this is what a quorum means, and if you go to a social gathering and you're sitting there with that number of people and you're talking about business, that's technically a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. If you're sending a chain email from one to the next, that's technically a meeting. Just the important thing, so someone doesn't get themselves in trouble by violating that right to know law.
That's right. You know,
And then all the training that has to happen from the land use boards. I mean,
Mhm.
that's very specific. And there's a lot of case law that they should understand
Well,
in making
I
the
guess
decisions.
that's my question. On the planning board, I have four new alternates. I mean, I got alternates that are participating in meetings that are being made voting members. And how do we deal with that?
Well, Phil, I remember in the past, the planning board tried to get all new members, it wasn't required, but it was encouraged, that all new planning board members went to an LGC
Right, training.
training.
Right.
Yeah.
At least in their, hopefully in their first year,
Yeah, and ZBA, because,
to learn all of those
Right.
ins and outs. Do they do that anymore?
and also the law lecture series, they're always encouraged, and we budget for them to go
Exactly.
to the law lecture series, and it's a series of 3 nights, for training. Usually lawyers do the training.
So to me, that now starts to fall under a human resources item. I mean, when you're talking about establishing a policy relative to training,
Well, the law says we must offer our land use member boards training and
Understood.
fund it.
understood.
And so the organization that does that is Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and they do it in cooperation with LGC for the
Right.
municipal law
Right,
lecture
but it's
series.
training. It's a
It's
human
training.
resource.
But it's not for an employee. See, I see human resources more
Oh,
related
well,
to
that's where you're trying to draw the
employees.
distinction.
Yeah.
In other otherwise you wouldn't have any differentiation between volunteer,
Yep.
committee
Yep.
member.
No, it's an issue, I agree. If you want your town to operate at its best performance level, all your officials should have some training or.
That has an
realize-
implication to us on the legal side.
Well,
It does.
Yeah, there's a
Definitely.
financial
Legal
implication,
fees.
Yeah.
because it could have potential lawsuit or multiple lawsuits.
And what I found is sometimes a lot of the training sessions LGC offers are during the day when
Yeah.
our volunteers are working. And that's why we reached out to them and they said, okay, if you can get a few communities there, and we did. We had people from Hooksett, Dunbar, and Goffstown, and they came to that last one that we had at the high school, on the right to know. Now, the most interesting right to know law workshop I've ever been to had quite a variation of panelists. It had the lawyers, who, municipal type of attorneys. It also had the press and their attorney.
So you had different
So
perspectives.
you had many different perspectives. That's really interesting when you've been in the business for a while, but I'm not sure, it may be confusing to someone just entering into municipal government.
Maybe we need to think about it a little bit.
Is there a way of maybe, if the planning board can look ahead to see, I mean, I don't wanna say it's very slow now, but there are maybe meetings that
Could be
could be
training
moved.
workshops.
Right, so there isn't any
Jointly
any
with the CBA, maybe even.
site plan reviews that maybe
Yeah,
we can
that
have
might-
somebody from LGC come in on the night you meet, so people aren't coming in
So it's
extra,
not an additional burden on
not an
Yeah.
additional burden.
That's an idea. I think they want a minimum of 20 people in attendance if they're gonna bring a workshop to your site. Unless that's changed, that's how it used to be.
So we'd have to look at a joint meeting.
Maybe we reach out to our committees and say, what do you need for training? What would you like for training?
Most of them
And-
don't know what they need for
And
training.
we'll send them what LGC offers and,
But I think maybe, rather than just sending it, but maybe what we need to do is we need to develop a letter that goes with that, or a memo or something that just basically explains the bulleted items that are the important items that all public officials need to be aware of in order to function within the law.
and kind of like a reference list, where to go to find it.
Well, no, if we just have that, because if I'm a committee member that just got on for something and I don't have a clue about some of this stuff, and then you give me this list of training and I look at that and I say, well, this is up in this is this, why do I need to do? What's gonna make me go? What's gonna motivate me, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe what we need to do is to develop something that even where we have our volunteer form, put something like a disclaimer in there or something as a public announcement that as a public official, you know, as a volunteer, you have certain commitment, you have certain obligation to know these things, and there is training, and part of serving, I mean, we can't make people go, but you're not serving the public without this part of
Let me
your
see what I can
commitment.
put together.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to look to LGC and ask them what they think we should do.
We have a list of all their training
know they
sessions,
do,
but
but-
I can kind of pick things out of
Yeah,
that.
but what would they recommend as a good package, you know, that would suit our needs, understanding that we've got,
Well, everyone should know the right to know law.
Right.
And that's why we put the poster up there where all the committees meet, so they know it exists and the reference.
Right, see, I understand, and I guess you go to the town website and you want to volunteer to be on a committee. Okay, you fill out the form. Well, that's all I know about serving on the committee. I've read some of the stuff that the committee does, but there is nothing in there that says that as a member of a town committee, you are a public official, and as a public official, this is some of the things that, how you function. You also have an obligation to understand certain things on how you operate. I mean, how many people realize that they function in a fishbowl? We all do.
Well, yeah, we're getting bogged down.
Yeah.
on this issue.
Exactly.
Let me work on that for you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. I think the last one was the economic development, which we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, any other suggestions from folks relative to goals? Great, I think we've got a little bit more work we can do and some refining. And redraft those two and bring them back to us.
Yeah, maybe, I'll think of this a little bit. I can maybe work with Sue a little bit, maybe we can come up with something. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
We may have some information if you go to the Knowing the Territory.
Yeah.
They have some good information
And
on the
I'm
various
sure we're
boards.
not the first community that's had to struggle with this.
That might even be a good publication to give to every
Mhm.
committee. And let them circulate one book around their committee
Yeah.
to read.
Okay, good. Is there any other old business or new business to come before the board? We do have a non-public that we need to go into. And if there's nothing else, I'd like to let the folks in GTV 16 know that we're going to be going into non-public when we come out. We will
Adjourning.
not do adjourning, so change the channel and watch one of your favorite programs. So, we need to go into non-public, so. Motion.
Make a motion to go in non-public, RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, under A for compensation.
Thank you. Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Take a roll call for that, correct?
Aye.
Selectman Rennie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. 5-0. All righty, we'll be adjourning to a non-public session.